I am a 386SX machine.
Hello and welcome to this edition of PC Voyage. I'm Andrew Doty.
And I'm Rainey Laviolette. Today we have Bob Clements with PC Voyage News, Tim Hamlet with Questions and Answers, and Jim Dilks with Bits and PCs.
And we'd like to thank Bruce Oliver for visiting us once again from Microsoft. Hello, Bruce.
Hello, it's a pleasure to be here again.
Well, tonight, as he didn't mention, we're going to be talking about Windows. What is Windows for people that don't know?
Windows is actually a memory manager. It is an operating environment that utilizes the operating memory from 1 megabyte up to 16 and as much as 32 megabytes of memory. So it's actually something that allows the PC and the operating system to container off various portions of memory for various applications. And this allows multiple applications to work concurrently and run at the same time on the same machine.
What does Windows allow you to do other than that DOS doesn't? I mean, why should people use Windows?
The most exciting thing about Windows 3.1 that I see is the capability to set up printers, monitors, etc. once during the introduction and the application of and setting up the PC. So all Windows applications that are brought in after that do not have to be reconfigured for monitor as well as printers and printer drivers, things of that sort.
Now, a lot of people complained about the speed of Windows 3.0 and previous versions. What have you folks done in that area?
We've really optimized, and this is another exciting thing about it, is we've optimized the speed at which Windows works, especially with DOS 5.0. It allows printers to print quicker because we've worked at length to make sure that network printing works quicker, as well as printers print out quicker. So that's one of the major things that have been added, as well as some of the other things with TrueType fonts and things like that.
How about showing us some of the features of Windows 3.1?
Well, what we see is Windows 3.1 loaded right now. One of the major differences between 3.0 and 3.1 is a startup program group. And what we see is Program Manager here with the various program groups that are not open, and then two program groups that are open, Games and Startup. Startup is sort of a task auto-exec for Windows. It's much the same as an auto-exec.bat works with the DOS operating system. It allows applications that you've moved into the startup program group to be brought up immediately as soon as you enter into Windows. So as a result, if you're working on a number of programs every single time you start up the PC, you don't have to go into WinNI or into some other type of setup saying Win space and then the name of the file in order for you to start that when you start Windows. You can just bring things into the startup subdirectory. So what I've got is several tasks that have been started as soon as I got into Windows. One is our editor, which works within DOS, File Manager, which is a major enhancement from the File Manager prior to this. We're going to see this in a couple minutes. Dr. Watson, which is a diagnostic tool which allows technicians to work with you to solve your problems and quickly bring your system back on board if there's a problem with an application. We've included Bad App, which is an application just to demonstrate how those various windows that are above the 1 megabyte threshold, prior to this, if an application went out, you had to reboot the entire machine. What we've done is we've protected the various containers, and we've said if something happens in this container, then only reboot that container. The information is fed back to Dr. Watson, and you can add in some information regarding the activity that you were carrying out at that point in time.
Will this help people that have traditionally gotten UAE errors?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, what we have done is we've made it so that UAEs work differently. UAE previously, because of the way Windows worked, Windows 3.0 worked, the UAE caused the entire petition or the entire area, 1 megabyte to 32 megabytes, to be defective and therefore have to be reboot, and you had to reboot the entire machine. Now, the UAE may happen in one application, and you reboot just that application, and you reboot that area. So it allows you to restart that information and start it over. The other thing that we've done is within our accessories, and we've got a number of accessories that have been included in the previous version as well as this version. In this version, we have OLE supported functions. In other words, object linking and embedding. An object could be a picture, it could be text, it could be sound, as well as motion, full motion video and other things such as animation that can be included. So you can actually move animation into any of the accessories that are included with this version, unlike previous version. So what we've heard in the media has been things such as multimedia and multimedia extensions. If I switch to another application, and as I said, we run multiple applications concurrently, I have the right application, and by hitting the alternate tab key, I can move from Write to File Manager to Dr. Watson, all of the applications that I have open at a particular point in time. If I move to Write, I have an object that has been linked, and it is a chart. So if I double-click on an object, and Bill Gates has said we shouldn't have to know where information is stored, all we should have to know is that we want to see the details of that information. So if we double-click on a particular block or a particular object, in this case a chart from Paintbrush, which we see right here, we will be able to change that chart or change that information and automatically have it linked back to the thing that we've gone to previously. So if I change the color of that area and I get out of Paintbrush, you see that it says I'm closing the connection, this open embedded object and TrueType Write. And I want to update that object. So when I close, it automatically updates the information that I've got in my Write document. And this is the true power behind object linking. So you actually do work once, and then you link it to a report or a spreadsheet or something like that.
Does this work with any Windows application?
This will work with any Windows application, absolutely. Object linking, embedding, and dynamic data exchange are two things that we've included and we do within Microsoft Windows. We've got a cleaner and a much more consistent interface between the way we do it, but any Windows application, of which there are several thousand that have been written for Windows. There are about 5,000 developers, software developers, that are writing Windows applications worldwide right now. And we have approximately 12 to 13 million people that use Windows. And we've just heard that we made some major strides in the last month or two since the introduction on April 6th rather, of Windows 3.1. We've sold about 3 to 4 million copies. So it's a tremendous number of people that have seen the benefits of upgrading to Windows 3.1 over Windows 3.0.
We hear so much about the Windows 3.1. What's DOS's destiny?
Well, my belief is that DOS is always going to be around. There are about 70 to 90 million machines that have DOS on it in the world. Those machines that need to run larger applications, and the larger machines such as the 386s, the 486s, and the 586s, which want to run multiple applications, share information by cutting and pasting, object linking, those are the machines that are going to utilize Windows 3.1 and our future versions of Windows.
Windows itself is a multitasking operating system, is it?
It's actually a time slicing type of system. For all intents and purposes, the concepts of multitasking and time slicing get lost in the shuffle. The only way that you can have a multitasking type of system which runs things absolutely concurrently is it's very, very difficult. You'd have to have multi-processors, and that's a hardware issue. What we do with Windows and this particular system is we allow a clock to be divided up so that a certain amount of information can be utilized and an application is run in a certain part of the clock. So to the naked eye, it appears as though the systems run concurrently or are multitasked.
Oh, gee, thanks, Bruce, for coming in. That's pretty impressive with the grabbing the graph and all that. That's a definite enhancement, in my opinion. We'd like to thank Bruce for visiting us again this week. We hope to see him in the future again.
Yes, we will.
And after Chip brings us this week's trivia question, Bob Clemens will be on hand with PC Voyage News. See, that was easy.
Here are this week's computer trivia questions. Number 1. What do CD-ROM and SIG stand for? And number 2. What do the commands type DEL, VER, VOL, REM, and copy have in common?
Welcome back. You know, that was a great demo that Bruce did. I'm glad we had him here. You know, one of the
It's always
things-
good to see him.
I know. One other thing is, you know, everybody always talks about these things here as mice. You know, let's just make it look like a mouse here. And you can buy these in a lot of different stores. It's a mouse cover for your mouse. Fits on just like that. Actually, usually they look better.
No, it's
Something like that.
Small mouse.
Small mouse.
It's only Keith's.
That's true. And now here's Tim Hamlet with, what do you do? Oh, questions and answers. Questions and answers. I didn't forget. I was kidding.
Right. How you doing this week, guys?
Good.
Good. That's really great. Well, it's our last show of the season, and I want to say that I've had a lot of fun doing this segment and learned a lot at the same time. I hope the folks at home keep sending in their questions during the summer so that I'll have something to talk about next season. The first question tonight is from Emilio Arroyo of Holyoke. And Emilio asks, what's the difference between macros and batch files? Good question, Emilio. Well, macros and batch files are both designed to replace often used commands or lengthy commands or even text with a short code. The main difference is that macros are used within applications such as spreadsheets and word processors. Batch files do the same thing, only they are used within the operating system and are much more flexible. Batch files can not only start up programs, but can manipulate data that's in the environment and use that information for such things as like checking dates and deleting old files, or you can even create a text menu system with a batch file by calling another batch file to load and run a program. To put it simply, macros are inside applications and batch files are in the operating system. Check your DOS manual for a full list of batch file commands and their uses. Next question tonight, Brad Perkins of South Hadley provided me with this one. And he wants to know what's the difference between expanded and extended memory. I went through this on an earlier show, but I must not have explained it too well, otherwise I wouldn't be seeing the question again. See if I can do better this time. Expanded memory, being the older of the two types, is an expansion card that plugs into one of the slots in your machine. Normally it contains 1 to 8 megabytes. In order to use this memory, you must have an expanded memory manager and a program that can utilize the added capacity. The memory manager lets the program load its data files into the expanded memory area and creates a 64 kilobyte page frame in conventional memory. The data is swapped between this page frame and the expanded memory as needed. Extended memory is the memory addresses above 1 megabyte, and the chips are on a special board that fit into the memory slots on your machine. You can use an extended memory manager to emulate expanded memory, much like I just described before. Or you can get an operating system such as OS/2 that will directly address the memory above 1 megabyte. Our last question tonight comes from Alma Rolla of Ware. She wants to know the difference between a flat database and a relational database. And Alma, here's the best way I can describe it for you. Here we have a flat database. It contains names, addresses, cities, the state, and the machine that these particular people use. As you can see, we have Rainey and Andy, myself, and Jim Dilks. Okay? This is a flat database. We can access information out of here using any of these fields and match up together with other fields of the same name. Okay, in a relational database, you can use this field here and relate it, hence relational, to another file contained within the database. And if we wanted to know what software Rainey LaViolette was using at the time, which is contained in another file, we could ask the first file what software he was using. And it would look into this next file and see that Rainey is using WordPerfect. And the way that it does this is that it uses common fields, such as you notice both of them had Rainey LaViolette, and he lives on 100 some street in Nowhere, Massachusetts. So Alma, that's the difference between flat databases and relational databases. Oh, that's all I got for you guys tonight.
Thanks, Tim. You know, we've been doing this thing with the software. By the way, where is the software? What software do we have?
Xtree Pro Gold.
We do? Oh, here it comes.
There it goes.
Okay,
PC
mouse.
Tools version 7.1.
Hello.
Hello. Windows 3.1.
The cover always falls open on this.
And Prodigy. Thank you to our lovely assistant, Glenn Trim.
And the winners for this will be announced on our first show of next season, so make sure you watch and still send your letters in over the summer.
And next up, Chip with our address so that you can mail those questions in and get the opportunity of winning these wonderful pieces of software. By the way, you don't get the ones that we threw around the set. Chip?
If you have any questions for Tim, or if you have any comments about the show, please write to us. Our address is PC Voyage, P.O. Box 6295, Holyoke, Massachusetts, 01041.
Welcome back. You know, these are going to be tough trivia questions. You know, next year maybe we ought to do something where people write in the answers and we give them to them.
Well, I don't know. I think with the stuff that we're getting, and the software that we're getting, and we're getting more and more as time goes on, I think maybe we should make it a little harder, you know? That's an awful lot of software there to be giving away.
A real contest or something.
Real contest,
that
right.
the answer will be sealed or something.
All right.
And here's the guy that probably won't know any of the answers, Jim Dilks with Bits and PCs.
Thank you, Rainey. You're all heart.
My
And
friend.
also to you, there, whatever your name is. Okay, this evening I'm going to be discussing the check disc, and I'm also going to be discussing the disc copy. To start out with, have you ever done a copy and somewhere along the line the machine locks up? You're copying from one drive to another and the machine locks up and you have to reboot. Well, what you might find is like on the disk I have here. Okay. We pull a check disk on this and it says that we have 681 lost clusters. What happens is this is supposed to be a 1.2 meg floppy, and we've only got 865,280 bytes available, and there are no files on the disk. So what's happened here is that when I was doing a disk copy, the machine locked up. I went ahead and I booted out of it. I had to reboot the machine to get out of it, and so the machine has now locked up all of this memory on the drive. So we can now run what's called check disk with the and it tells you right up here at the beginning, error found, F parameter not specified, correction will not be written to the disk. So what happens here is if we now do check disk again, and with the /F command, what happens is it'll go out now, and it will now repair the disk. Okay. It comes back and it says you have 680 lost allocation units found in one chain. It says convert lost chains to files, yes. So we'll now convert the lost chains to files. Now it comes back and it tells us that it has recovered these lost chains and now put them into files. So when we ask for a DIR, it comes back, and this is what the machine does. It says file 0000, and it says check at the end. So this file has now been recovered. We can just delete it off the drive, and we will now have all of our disk space back again. And we can do it this way. Yes. Okay, if we ask for a DIR again, it will probably come back in. Okay, the machine has now recovered all of the lost clusters, and we now have our full disk space back again.
Hey, thanks, Jim. You know, when you do a
Check this.
check disk and you save the file out to the disk, is that file useful for anything?
Well, it all depends. If you're working on a document and in the middle of it, for some reason, the machine locked up and you boot it out of it, you might find that your document is still there. But to recover it, it all depends on the process that was used to save it. If it was saved in an ASCII format, it's easily recoverable. If it wasn't, it was saved with a word processor format, you may have a harder time recovering it.
Well, thanks for the information.
Thanks, Jim.
Next up, Chip is here with the trivia answer, and then Bob Clements will be on hand with PC Voyage News.
Here are this week's computer trivia answers. Number 1. CD-ROM stands for Compact Disc Read Only Memory. SIG stands for Special Interest Group. And number 2. Type DEL, VER, VOL, REM, and copy are all internal plus commands.
Welcome back. Now, here is Bob Clements with PC Voyage News. Bob.
Good evening, guys. We have some very interesting stories tonight. A California Superior Court judge has upheld a $15 million damage award against Intel, confirming Advanced Micro Devices' right to produce its own versions of Intel's popular 386 microprocessor. Santa Clara County Superior Court Judge Reed Ambler confirmed the February 24 award by an independent arbitrator who ruled that an early 1980s technology sharing agreement between Intel and AMD gave the upstart chipmaker the right to produce 386 clones. Intel says it will appeal the ruling. The company says the conflict is a matter for the federal courts. Dell Computer is planning to upstage the competition with aggressive price cutting in several new PC products, including a sub-notebook PC, reports PC Week. Dell has already introduced 33 products and cut prices 5 times within the past 12 months, notes the trade journal. Dell's formula for success has been to offset declines in gross margins by reducing operating expenses, but some analysts believe that Dell has pushed its business model as far as it can go and that the company has reached its peak today, states PC Week. The U.S. electronics industry lost 40,000 jobs in the quarter ended March 31, says the American Electronics Association. The period also marked the first time that the software segment of the industry failed to grow since the AEA began collecting such data in 1985. Software employment in the first 3 months of 1992 remained flat at 133,400 workers. Domestic employment in the overall electronics industry was 2.35 million, or 1.7% less than the 2.39 million reported at the end of last year. The AEA says 90,000 electronics jobs were lost during 1991. Creative Labs is offering the Multimedia Starter Kit, priced at $650. The package includes the Sound Blaster Pro Stereo System, a high-performance internal CD-ROM drive, the Microsoft Bookshelf Reference Library, and the Sound Blaster Pro Software Collection. The starter kit significantly lowers the entry price point for multimedia, says Arnold Waldstein, Creative Labs Marketing Director. Once your PC is upgraded to MPC specifications, you can easily buy additional software or hardware. Portions of the above have been brought to you by the Prodigy Service. Thank you very much.
I think it's very important, and for the final show of the season, we have Keith Davis, our producer, and he's the one that brings in all this glorious equipment, including this mouse. And I think it's important that we show people how to care and maintain their mice. Now, one thing you got to watch out for is that you keep your mice away from such things as these, because you get them too close and you never know what's going to happen. Now,
That's Keith's mouse.
too bad it'll live.
I got buckets of them at home. They reproduce like mad.
This is terrible. I mean, oops, I'm sorry. Oh, God.
Remember, don't do this at home to your mouse, unless it's Keith's or somebody else's that's a close friend of yours. So, what do you think of the shows that we've done this year, Keith?
I think you guys did a really great job.
Including
out
how we maintain your mouse.
That's okay. I'll get you back next season. So, no, you guys did a great job, and we hope everybody will watch us next season, which will be the fall of 1992, and we'll be back with more exciting shows and a lot more information on PCs, and a lot of behind-the-scenes people here helped out with this show, and sometimes you get a glimpse of them in the credits, and it's great out here under the lights.
Under the hot lights. This is fun. Let's do this again. They're in different directions this time.
On that note,
Child's play all the way here, yes.
until next time, actually next season, thank you for watching from all of us at PC Voyage, and there are quite a few. Thanks.
Good night.